What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And today, guys, I am here for World's Biggest Collectors, episode 52, the show where we bring on the biggest physical media collectors in the YouTube and social media spaces. And today, I am very excited to bring on Ryan from The Disconnected to talk about all things physical media, his collection. We dive deep into the boutique labels. Like Ryan, like nobody goes as deep into the boutique labels, into Vinegar Syndrome and the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels than Ryan does over on his channel. So I highly recommend that you go check him out. I will link all of his, I'll have all of his links down below in the description. But we had a great conversation about all the boutique labels, his favorites, who he thinks is coming up, who he thinks is going to be the next breakout boutique label. And we have a great conversation about him and his history with collecting and how he got into collecting and his massive collection. Like, this dude has an insane collection of physical media movies. And I'm really excited, guys, to release this episode to you guys. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Ryan from The Disconnected, episode 52 of World's Biggest Collectors. Let's do it. All right, welcome everybody to World's Biggest Collectors, episode 52. I am joined today by Ryan with The Disconnected. What is going on, man? I'm happy to have you here.
I mean, I'm thrilled to be here. It feels
I
like
feel
we've
like
been tangentially related for a long time and just not crossed that path yet.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm pretty sure, because I've known about your channel for at least 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that your name came up in like one of my comment sections one time as to somebody I need to get on here. So I took way too long to make that happen. So I do apologize. I think that's the only time that's ever happened where somebody has recommended me somebody in the comment section that I did not already know. So then I looked up your channel and found you, and I was like, damn, this guy's doing a lot of cool stuff over there. I do need to have him on. But yeah, man, real quick before we get into it, we're going to get into you as a collector and, you know, how you got started collecting and all that kind of stuff. But before we do that, do you want to let everybody know what you do over at The Disconnected real quick?
Sure, it's a whole lot. So be prepared with a pencil and paper, I guess. I've got a live show every Thursday night. That's the thing that probably is most well known on my channel. Every Thursday, I go over all of the boutique announcements of that previous week, and I pretty much always have a guest on for that. And after we discuss the announcements, we'll go over some sort of discussion topic, and it is just the best part of my week every single week, undoubtedly. And then the other big thing is I have been interviewing a lot of the industry professionals, ranging from people that are running these boutique labels, people that are perhaps producers on some of the special features, people that have been working in the industry for decades. And lately I've been branching out to some filmmakers even. I've had some directors. I've had Sean Baker came on my channel, and I've got a couple coming up that are actually pretty cool on that front. So I do a lot of that. One of the things that my channel used to be well known for that I'm working on still behind the scenes, even though it doesn't seem like it, is these label guide videos. So if you wanted to know everything about Mondo Macabro, I would have all of the packaging they do, a list of all of their releases, their history, the people involved with the label, and just go into a deep dive on them as much as I possibly could. There are more of those coming. It's been a long time since my last one, like 8 months, but it's been a very busy 8 months on the channel because I ran me and Stephen Billings.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Stephen Billings from Chasing Labels did an award show this year, and that has taken like 4 months of my time. So it put a lot of stuff on my back burner.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing that you all did for sure. I definitely checked that out, and yeah, you all recognized, you know, not just the studio stuff and not even just the top like boutique labels, but like you dive deep into physical media. So I definitely appreciate that, because there's still a lot of stuff about some of those smaller labels that I don't know about. So I feel like when I watch your channel, I get you know, educated for sure. So I definitely appreciate that. So guys, I'm telling you right now, go follow Ryan over at The Disconnected. Go subscribe to his channel. I will link all of that down below in the description. You do a lot of great stuff over there, sir. So I am happy to have you here tonight. And you also, Got a podcast, like you said, as well,
Yeah.
that you do, and you put all those episodes up on your channel too, right?
Yep. All of the interviews, all of the Thursday night live shows, all of that gets put up as audio format only.
Awesome. So, how long you been doing this kind of thing, Brian? You've been doing it for a while. It feels like you're a natural.
Funny enough, the YouTube anniversary today that we're recording this is my 2-year anniversary to the day.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Happy
and
anniversary.
I appreciate that, and I just so happened to cross 2,000 subs today too. So it's
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
cheers all around. The speaking side of things has just really been a thing in my life the last probably 5 or 6 years. I in my real life, I work for the federal government actually, and I quickly got into a position of leadership and noticed that I was not very sure of myself. So I figured I should probably do something to figure out, public speaking in a set chance kind of, but it's mostly more just general communicating with people that
Yeah,
where you're sure of yourself. And a lot of people they recommended Toastmasters, which is this really stuffy, like 50 years ago it was very popular. Go give a fake speech once a week and you'll do better because you're speaking in front of people. And I said, I think I can do a better version of that. And I went and became a pub trivia host. And I was leading pub quiz at a bar here in Kansas City for a whole year before COVID started, and
nice.
it changed everything for me. I was able to think more on the fly. I was interacting with people in a super organic way. It led to being able to handle conflict when it came up, and it built so many different random skills. I loved doing that.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of have similar paths because I'm naturally very introverted. Like getting on here and
Same.
talking to people, that's not my that naturally that's not for me. But I really like to push myself and out of my comfort zone.
Yep.
But I also got into leadership like 10 years ago. I was super uncomfortable in it as first, and it took a while to really get past that. But I got comfortable with it. But this kind of stuff, getting on here and talking and going live and making videos was super awkward for me at first. But I feel
Yep.
like doing this like helps me in my everyday life and
Oh
actually
yeah.
ended up helping me in my job as well. So yeah, it's definitely a cool thing. YouTube is I feel like it's underrated. I feel like it gets, people talk a lot of crap about social media and YouTube. I feel like it can be helpful from time to time in,
Certainly
in
can.
your in your everyday life. Um But okay, Ryan, let's go back. Let's go to the beginning and talk about you as a collector in an early age. How did you get started doing this stuff? Was it something that you did starting when you were a little kid? Were you collecting VHS tapes,
I
DVDs?
I did not collect many VHS tapes myself, but my parents did, and I reveled in it. We didn't have too many because obviously VHSs were exorbitantly expensive for a long time. We had probably one of those really old school, like China cabinet type dressers that were just full of VHSs, and then they just stopped. They didn't get anything new anymore after that. Fell in love with a lot of those, wore out many of those tapes, and then by the time I moved out, I was just about in that phase where everybody was getting super into music. And my first big single collector, aside from myself, was all music. I was one of those ones that drove around with a CD binder with literally like 400 CDs and would make the
I
choice.
still got one of those with
Yep.
all my CDs from high school in it. I
I'd
haven't
make the
moved them.
choice of what to listen to on a fly. I'd listen to 3 tracks and then, change a CD at a red light or something. It's yeah, that was my life, and I worked in, music for a little while myself. I used to, do promotions for shows. I hosted, living room shows at my house. I volunteered with a radio station for a couple years. Yeah, music was the first, like, real passion of my life for sure.
Would you say that would, because that's interesting, because when I think about it, I don't ever think to say that when somebody asks me, like, how I got into collecting, but it really was music that I feel
Yeah.
like I was collecting for a lot at first, like CDs and stuff like that. So is that the first thing that you really feel like you started collecting for?
That is related to media for sure, and the funny thing is the music collecting oddly is what got me into collecting film. Because I started hosting these shows and volunteering with the radio stations, I started making friends with some of these bands. And because it was the early to mid 2000s, a lot of them were these emo and hardcore bands, and they were trying to be cool, so they're all hyped up with horror and cult music
Yeah.
lyrics that they're going over. So hey, this song's about the Evil Dead. You ever seen that? And I was just this impressionable little kid. No, what's that? And I discovered the Evil Dead because they taught me, yeah, our song's called Dead by Dawn. Here, you got to watch this movie. And I just fell in love with it. And after a while, it was, oh, well, I'm going to, Circuit City every Tuesday morning to see what the new releases are. They also got movies just a couple aisles over. Maybe I should go check those out.
Yeah. Yeah. That they did used to release music and stuff on Tuesdays as well, didn't they?
Yep.
It was the same thing.
Every single
So is that when you would say that you really started getting into movies, or have you been pretty much a big movie fan your whole life? Or
I've loved movies my whole life. I didn't really get into the passionate and like analytical side of things until I was on my own away from my parents. And the problem was we grew up in a very small town in California in the desert, and they didn't have a lot of the underground stuff. So
yeah,
I understood a lot of the franchise films. I understood a lot of the crappy sequels that came out for some of these. The big like Tom Hanks films, all that was a given, but stuff like the Blob from the 80s, that was not something that was popular. So our little like 4-aisle blockbuster never had the Blob. It's not something that they would even rent. It was way too small and niche for something like that. So
yeah,
it had to wait until I was on my own to be able to discover the things that I've truly fallen in love with.
yeah. I've always loved the movies, but it's a constant thing on my channel where I'll talk about a movie that I've never seen this one for. What? You've never seen that?
Same.
Um, why do you have a YouTube channel? You should have seen every single movie ever made to be on here talking about them.
Exactly.
But I haven't seen a lot. But it's funny because it's like before you get on here and start talking about movies, like you feel like you've seen a good amount of movies. Like I've seen a lot of movies, and
Yep.
then you get on here and realize that holy shit, I haven't seen anything.
My
Um,
problem is I feel like I absorb pop culture. So a lot of the movies that I go to watch, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna rewatch this one. But in all reality, I've never seen it. I've just seen certain scenes from it, and it feels like
yeah.
I've seen the movie. So half the time, I start it and I'm like, I don't ever remember seeing this. Maybe I never
Yeah.
actually have.
That happens to me a lot too, where I'll be like, I think I've seen it, but and then I'll watch it and I'm like, no, I have not seen this.
Yep,
I haven't seen it at all. Like Teen Wolf, I watched the other night for the first time, but it's like I think I saw that when I was a kid, but it was just like I probably just saw clips on TV or something.
same.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely a constant thing where people, want to give you crap for not watching
Yep,
everything. But I always say I'm working on it. Like I'm actively working on it. I'm trying to go through combing through the Criterion collection, but there's always something that's like pulling you in a different direction. And
of
now
course.
it's I've kind of been bitten by the Vinegar Syndrome bug, and so now I'm kind
Nice.
of going down those cult horror film rabbit
Right.
hole and absorbing all that instead of watching classics like Mildred Pierce, like maybe I should be. Instead, I'm watching Ticks on 4K.
Still
Um,
a win.
yeah. All right. So you got into collecting CDs first. When did it turn into movies? When did you?
Literally from some of those bands, I'd hear about some of these horror movies, and then I started to see a lot of these old. They turned out to be Anchor Bay releases of DVDs in, Best Buy, Circuit City, something like that. And I didn't amass a huge collection, but I had probably 300 or so movies that I had built up, and then I started to get into some of the classic things that I had been sort of introduced to when I was younger, things like Saturday Night Live. And because of that, I had missed out on a lot of the earlier years of Saturday Night Live. So I'd go and buy all those old compilation CD or DVDs that they were putting out at the time in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mid 2000s for Saturday Night Live. I bought, Monty Python, the Flying Circus collection that was out on DVD around then, and that was like my prized possession for a long time. And all of that was building up, and then until about 2013 ish, and that's when I decided to move. I was looking to get a new job anywhere, and I came here to Kansas City. And one of the things that we did was said, we don't want to move with a lot, so let's try to sell off as much as we possibly can to move with as little as possible, make a little extra money to get started somewhere else. We had just got married. I sold pretty much everything I owned. We moved with 6 feet of a moving truck. That was the only thing we filled up, that in our car, and drove to Kansas City. So because of that, I sold all but maybe 15 DVDs, and that's all that was left. And by the time I got here, it was perfect timing because Blu-ray was starting to really hit its stride.
Yeah.
And so I got the itch again and started to look into, man, I want to see Reanimator. And I go look at an available Reanimator release. Oh, what is this Arrow Video? They just put this
What's
out
Arrow
like a year
Video?
and a
Yeah.
half ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's take this and ingest it basically. And yeah, that's where the boutique love came from.
Yeah, I took a how long did it take you to get into Blu-ray? Because I was a late adopter to Blu-ray because I was the person that was like, DVD's cheaper. I'm just gonna keep buying DVD. And I did that probably until 2014, probably. Did you jump on it pretty quick, or was it just that was it good timing? Like you had sold all your DVDs and then right then Blu-ray was coming out, or was it a
I
little bit
think
later?
I think I got the this is really gonna date what happened, but, I think I got the second version of the PlayStation 3, and since they were leading the whole Blu-ray drive thing at that time, the original PlayStation 3 was that giant fat one, and then they made the skinnier version that still had the Blu-ray drive, and that
Yeah,
was the first time I got Blu-ray movies, and so by then it was maybe 2011 or so, but,
yeah.
I was stubborn, so I wasn't gonna sell all of my old DVDs, and, kinda just like you said, yeah, these are cheaper. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but some of the new ones I'll buy perhaps, but
I
again, we
bought a
moved.
few on Black Friday because
Yeah,
they would go down to $10, but that was about it.
we moved 2 years later, and I think I only had 20, 25 to sell
Yeah.
in 2 years. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, because 2016, I had about 600 DVDs, and I sold them all. All of them except for some of my horror movies. For some
Yep,
reason, I just wanted to keep my horror movies because they were close to my heart. I've just been a big horror fan my whole life.
yeah.
Um, and then, like, 6 months later, I'm like, "Nah, I don't wanna do this digital thing. I wanna go back to collecting Blu-rays or physical media," and I was like, "Well, I'll just start with Blu-rays now since they're a little bit cheaper." But I was a big gamer, back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, so that
Yep.
was kinda taking up all my finances, so I wasn't looking to spend a lot of money on movies anyway because I got sucked into games for a while.
I did too, but not the standard kind. I because I was a music person, I was stuck in the whole Guitar Hero Rock Band
Oh,
era
yeah,
for
yeah, I knew
years.
people like that, yeah.
Yeah, there
Th
was
those games are fun, though. I would play them, but
the first 4 years of Rock Band, I think I had all of their downloadable songs, which is a
yeah,
lot, and we would literally play, like, 25 hours a week.
yeah. I was that way, but Call of Duty and Halo kinda got a hold of me.
I was a Halo kid too, yeah.
Yeah, and I played all the other games too. I was completely addicted, BioShock and Mass Effect and all those games back then. But then, I had kids and it's easier to watch a movie than it is to play a 50-hour game.
Absolutely.
So I got out of gaming a little bit. I
Same.
would love to go back. There's just not time. Okay, so how did it evolve to kind of where you're at now? I guess you kind of brought up, oh, let me look up a Blu-ray of Reanimator, and that's when you discovered Arrow Video. Was that your first introduction into a boutique label?
Of the ones that are still around, yes. I mean, I had a handful of the old Tartan DVDs. I had a handful of the Anchor Bay DVDs, and probably still do. But yeah, the modern boutique generation, I guess. Arrow, I think, was the first one that I had one from, and it was either Reanimator or another one of their very early releases. But
Yeah.
yeah, got into that world a little bit, and then I don't know what happened. I turned away for a moment, looked back, and I had like 400 releases.
Yeah.
Uh, it just sort of happened. And then we moved to another house. We got a house after we had our first kid, and by the time that we were able to be here, I had a whole room that I could literally dedicate to a movie collection and to a desk for working, and even that has pushed my desk out of the room because it has amassed to this ridiculously sized collection.
Yeah. Well, now that you say that, because everybody beats me up in the comments if I don't ask, but how many movies do you have in your collection? What's your collection total? This is world's biggest collectors. I have to
It
ask that
is.
question. If it's
Um,
not over 2,000, we have to end this right now. No, I'm just joking.
well, I don't have an accurate count because
I don't either.
there are some things that I've gotten rid of that I've forgotten to delete out of the collection, but my Blu-ray.com app shows somewhere around 7,500 to 8,000 releases, and somewhere like 9,500 films.
Ooh, now that's
Yeah.
big. That's a collection right there.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
got literally every single empty wall in this room is filled with films. My movie uh, window frame is now a movie frame, like I just alluded to. The entire thing is stacked full. This little closet door that you can see in the corner of my frame, I call that my shame closet. I've got all my studio releases just stacked up in there. I've got a horror cabinet that is stacked 3 deep of all Blu-rays and DVDs. It is
Nice.
a pretty intense room.
Do you still buy for DVD?
Only on things that I can make an educated guess will never come out on Blu-ray or
Yeah.
4K.
Yeah.
Or if, unfortunately, I'm one of the idiots that has a completist bug on certain things. Primarily, I've gotten to know a lot of the people behind these labels. So if it's a friend's label, I try to support them as best as I can. So I'll get
Yeah.
all of their releases. Um, yeah, it's tough.
It does get tough for sure. But yeah, I recently reorganized my collection and now I have this wall filled. That's the only wall I have filled, and now I have this shelf behind me. Um, but people always ask me, like, "Are you afraid of running out of room?" I was like, "No, I still got this wall and that wall over there. I'm good for at least another 3 or 4 years, probably, unless
I
they."
am reorganizing and I literally have stacks on the ground right now.
That's it's a good feeling though to reorganize. It is.
It is
It
until
is.
you realize there's probably no shelf
Now, are you
space.
looking to sell any of those, or do you have a tough time letting go?
I mean, I've got a list of stuff that are up for sale at the moment. Yeah, I try not to sell as much as I can, but there are things that just take up too much space, or that I've come to realize my tastes have changed, and it's either common enough where it's not going to be, $300 to buy it down the road again if I ever am dying to see this certain collection. But there's certain things that I thought that I loved, and then once I got deeper into the genre after I'd bought a whole bunch, I realized it was not for me.
Yeah, yeah. And are you a big, double dipper? Do you have multiple editions of a lot of stuff, or do you usually try to steer clear of that?
I try not to, but that fails tremendously on quite a few of these.
It does.
Like most people that you have on here, I've got multiple editions of pretty much every John Carpenter film. I've got a lot of multiple editions of I'm not even like a huge fan, but MCU films I've just somehow amassed probably 2 copies of each. I just like you talk about all the time. I'm a huge Steelbook collector. I've got God, there are a couple of MCU films. I probably have 3 Steelbooks of that one film, and I don't know why necessarily.
I was really dumb for a while. I would buy the Target edition and the Best Buy edition,
Yep,
and I was like, "Why am I doing this? I could buy like
that's a
3
lot.
movies that I haven't seen that are probably pretty damn good, but I'm not gonna check them out because 'cause I'm buying 5 versions of a Marvel movie."
Yep, been
But
there.
yeah, so let me ask you a question. You talk about John Carpenter. Would you so I've got a 4K steelbook of They Live. I've got a Blu-ray steelbook of They Live. I've got the 4K Screen Factory of They Live. I got a DVD of They Live, and I got the Blu-ray Screen Factory of They Live. Do you think I should give away the Blu-ray? Would you give away the Blu-ray of They Live because it has different artwork than the
I
4K?
I'd give away the DVD first,
Give away the DVD. See, that has
unless it
different
had
artwork too.
unless
No,
it had
actually, I don't have a DVD. No, I'm thinking of Escape from New York. I don't have a DVD of They Live. I don't have it.
well, it depends. And I'm one of those idiot completists. I Up until I think December of 2022, I have every other Scream Factory release that's ever been released.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah. So, I've got every version of They Live that they've put out. I've got the 4K, I've got the 4K
That
Steelbook,
steelbook was too nice to pass up.
I've
It
got
was
the
no.
Blu-ray, got the Blu-ray Steelbook, I've got the UK 4K special edition, that big box. Um, that might be it for They Live.
I tried to just stick to their 4K slipcovers, but every time they release a steelbook, because that Army of Darkness, I keep thinking about wanting to pick that up because that was a nice steelbook too.
Fantastic, yeah.
But I'm like, all right, I'm just doing 4K because I'm seeing this whole 4K thing they're doing. I know some people complain about it; they don't like it, but
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't really get into collecting for boutique labels until like 2017 or 2018. So I missed out on a lot of the early stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this as like a second chance for me.
And that's
Uh,
5.5 years after they got started, so that's a big deal.
yeah, to get to, collect all these movies on 4K with slipcovers.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm guessing that, you kind of got into the boutique world with the Arrow video release, and then it kind of just exploded from there, and you just kept expanding and expanding.
Yep.
And did it go? Because I kind of view Arrow and Scream Factory and Criterion and Kino, they're kind of like gateway boutique labels. Um, how long did it take you to discover labels like Vinegar Syndrome and Severn? Did you do it almost at the same time, or did it take you a little longer?
Uh, it was pretty close to the same time. I've always been fairly tech savvy, so I was up on things like Reddit when the boutique Blu-ray subreddit started taking off, and people would post new boutique label X is releasing this film, and that's where like Grindhouse releasing. I first heard about the releasing of uh God, what did they put out around then? I think it was The Big Gun Down, something like that. It's just, oh, I've always wanted to see that. This is perfect. Oh, and they happen to have these other 4 movies that I've always wanted. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And yeah, so Reddit helped out a lot with that. By somewhere between 2014 and 2017, I'd gotten pretty accustomed to most of them. And then on top of that, it's just been staying on top of it ever since.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say? Because I wanted to get into some stuff about the boutique labels and things like that,
Sure.
because I know that's kind of your area of expertise. So I kind of changed my line of questioning for you tonight. But what would you say is not just your top 5 boutique labels? You can tell me that as well. But what would you say are the top 5 boutique labels right now going today?
In terms of quality, popularity, physical
From your
quality.
perspective, which
Ooh,
ones do
man.
you just think are killing it and just firing on all cylinders and just the ones you get excited about the most?
So my number one, pretty much with a bullet right now, is Second Sight Films in the UK. I don't think they have released anything that has been a bad product since they've started focusing on their limited hard boxes that they've been doing.
Yeah.
Back in 2019-ish and prior, they were doing a lot of standard releases as well. But since then, they've noticed that the market is leaning towards these limited hard boxes with tons of content, and every single release has been just the best possible release for it. It's hard to argue with something like Drive in 4K from
It was
2010
amazing.
that
Yeah.
comes with 2 freaking books. I mean, how you can't do any better
I
than what
do
they did
think
with that.
sometimes when I get stuff like that, I'm like, I'm not gonna read these damn books. Why do I need them? But it's just cool to have them, you know? And I might read them someday. I mean, the actual novel of the movie is in there, right?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure.
And
Yeah.
the novel is in there, and then I believe they've got the working script or something like that as the other item in there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I need to read more.
and that's the crazy thing is I do try to read these. When I read a limited, or sorry, when I watch a film that came in a limited hard box that came with a book, I try to read the book soon after so that it gives me the context behind the film as much as I can.
Yeah,
Um, it's a lot for sure.
for sure. Yeah, I need to get into doing that more. But yeah, I do find that if I watch all the special features and read the booklets and stuff like that, I am better able to like do a more accurate review of it
Yep,
for sure. Um,
that is very true.
yeah, but second sight is killing it. So that's your number one.
Yep, that's my number one. Now in 2023, as it sits, I would probably put Vinegar Syndrome at number 2. A year ago, this likely would not have been my answer. They are a favorite of mine, believe me. I've got this is going to be shameful for anybody watching this that hates completionists or whatever. I have every single Vinegar Syndrome release ever, and
Wow,
I've
that's
followed
incredible.
them for years and years. I'm very grateful that I came on to them very early, not quite with their inception, but earlier than this big craze of people that love them. So things were still fairly cheap at the time.
Now, what got you into to collecting for Vinegar Syndrome? Because I imagine most of the movies they were putting out in the beginning, like they weren't like mainstream movies at all. So, what was your access point into Vinegar Syndrome?
I never remember this answer because I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018, but it was one of the Black Friday sales where they just had really great titles. Somebody posted about it, I think, on Reddit, and I saw that it was coming, and I went, "My God, that sounds amazing!" And hopped over there and picked it up. I think I did not sub that first year because it was intimidating. But when I saw how much I wanted from that first year following discovering them, I went, why would I not subscribe? And I've
Yeah.
subscribed ever since.
I had a whole stream earlier this year. Do I subscribe? Do I not? And ultimately decided not to. And now I'm kicking myself because like a lot of the stuff they're putting out every month, I'm wanting, and I'm wanting those partner label ones as well. So I'm like, I'd be getting discounts on these too. So I really think that next year that's going to be my year. But I was so stubborn with Vinegar Syndrome for a long time. I'm like, yeah, the packaging's pretty, but these movies are probably like Dollar Tree titles that would come out of the Dollar Tree, like random horror titles like Pumpkins. Those would be Vinegar Syndrome titles in 20 years on 4K.
And
But
some of them are not great. I'll give you that. Some of them are pretty rough movies. But I've got this phrase that I live by on my channel is that every single film has been somebody's favorite film. And no matter
yeah,
what, I try to find something in that movie to appreciate. And there's not a single movie I've watched that I haven't found at least something.
yeah, I'm really falling in love with them lately. The first one I got and watched was Dead Heat on
Ooh,
4K last year. Somebody recommended that to me. They got real excited when it came out, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna get it." And it had Treat Williams in it, who I loved from
yep,
Deep Rising. That was like one of my favorite movies growing up.
yep.
So I got that, really enjoyed it, and then they did Amityville, and that was a real game changer for
It's a
me. I
big
was like,
deal.
"This is a legitimate horror movie." And how important do you think that that is for a label to? Because I feel like with Criterion and Vinegar Syndrome, they have their fans that are a little, I don't want to say snobby, but a little snooty when it comes to putting out mainstream stuff. But I
Yeah.
think it's so important for that to have a healthy mix of the two to get people draw people into that label that otherwise would turn their nose up at it. And then once they get into watch that one, then they're like, oh, and they start to discover all the other stuff after that.
I think that is an important aspect, but I think just from some of these interviews that I've done behind the scenes with a lot of these people, the more impactful side of it is that when you put out a title like Amityville on 4K, yeah, you'll get more people that will come in and discover you, but the more important thing is you'll sell them. I mean,
Yeah.
they just did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on 4K. That came out in October, I believe, or November. One of the it was October because it wasn't the Black Friday sale of last year, and that just sold out. And they put out 8 or 10,000 copies of that to sell that many
Knew that
copies
was going to sell.
that quickly. Like that title alone is going to fund 2 or 3 other ventures that maybe they would not have been able to fund out of pocket, and that's a big deal. A lot of people think that some of these places are raking in the cash, and yeah, selling 8,000 copies of this 4K is making them some money, but it's a big venture. They're paying a lot of people salaries, so they're not just this money hungry, money falling out of their pockets company that can afford to drop
Yeah.
on an Amityville at the drop of a hat. It costs a lot to put out
Yeah.
something like this.
Yeah, I definitely kind of turned my head and I was like, Amityville, huh? I was like, what is going on over here? Then they did TCM2, and people were so starved for that release because I
Yep,
think the Scream Factory was out of print, and I didn't
multiple
have it on
years too.
I didn't have it on Blu-ray in the collection because that Scream Factory I wasn't gonna buy, so I was just rocking the DVD forever. So
Yep.
when that was announced, I was like, holy shit, I'm so excited for this. And then Roadhouse and um, yeah, Sidekicks also got me because that was a movie I grew up with, and I was very excited
It's a big one.
for that release as well.
And now we got
Showgirls,
showgirls. I always want to say strip girls. Don't know why.
Striptease,
Striptease, that's
Showgirls.
the other
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
they both came out around the same time. How do you feel about Showgirls? Are you excited about that one?
I am primarily because I
I feel
actually
like a lot of
found
people were upset about that, but it feels like perfectly in line with
yeah, a
Vinegar
lot of people
Syndrome.
are. I mean, they started out their first release was a porn release. Come on. It makes perfect
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Verhoeven is brilliant. I think that this is part of his run of nearly perfect films. So yeah, I'll take it. And that German 4K was awful. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people were anticipating they were going to announce like Seed of Chucky or Killer Clowns or something. I was like, they specifically said from the beginning VSU wasn't supposed to be like horror, right?
correct.
It was supposed to be
It's
kind of like outside the box picks.
outside of their normal titles. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for like Surf Ninjas or Three Ninjas or some of them like Suburban Commando, some of those like childhood
Those make more sense than
favorites.
Killer Clowns, yeah. And I mean, if they were gonna do a VSU, Amityville would have been a VSU, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 would have been a
Yeah,
VSU.
exactly. Yeah. But
And they still both got lovely releases, so nothing to complain about.
I know that when I release this episode, we'll already know, but we do have the April announcements coming this Saturday. Do you think that Killer Clowns is going to be in that
No.
because of all the rumors? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming.
You think it's coming from Arrow? You think they got
Yes.
it still?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like that was teased like maybe a year and a half ago as coming out from Arrow. So yeah, that's one I'm hoping for sure. Because I missed out on that Arrow release back in the day.
The only thing that's odd is that Blu-ray's been out of print for a long time, so it seems odd that they would still have it. I don't know.
Yeah, and when did they put that one out?
2016, 2017, so something like that.
2016. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, we got sidetracked. That was your second boutique label. What's your
Wow, that
third?
was only my second. Again, based on current 2023 times, I'm gonna have to go probably Kino Lorber. The fact that they can
That was my
con-
number one last year.
continuously put out 5, 6 titles a week, and when I see what they're putting out, and 4 of them go, I really want that in my collection. Like that is a huge hit rate when you're putting out that number of titles.
Yeah.
Beyond that, they are finally putting slipcovers almost everything to make a lot of the collectors happy. But the biggest change for me is that starting around 2019, 2020, they pretty much started adding at least a commentary to everything that they would be putting out. Before that, it was a lot of bare bones releases where it was just a trailer or an image gallery. But
Yeah.
from then, they finally started going, you know what, if we spend $1,000 to get somebody to do a commentary, we could sell 5,000 more of these. So let's
Yeah,
actually
that would
do
be
it.
my only criticism of some of their earlier stuff that I've got. I'll look at it and I'll be like, there's nothing on here at all.
Yep.
Like nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
I love Kino. I think that they have one of the most eclectic catalogs that satisfies a lot of different sides of what I love. They give a lot of respect to female creators. They give a lot of respect to Black creators. They put out a lot of foreign cinema, which I adore. And then on top of that, they fill in the blanks with cult classics that a lot of us grew up with, or some of our
they'll do
favorite
some like
actors.
at hot on 4K one month and then raw head Rex on 4K the next.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
when
great.
you're going on each side of the spectrum like that, there's going to be something for everybody. The hard part is that most of their titles are not going to be for everyone. It's going to be a very specific niche. And I think because
Yeah.
of that, they're going to be one of the ones that start to
They
potentially
don't have the
falter.
rabid fan base.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that most people that buy from Kino don't even realize it's a Kino.
true.
They're just, buying the next 4K or Blu-ray title that's coming out.
Yep.
Because I had a couple in my collection I didn't even realize were Kino until I really got into them. Like I think I bought the Good Son back in the day
Yep.
that I didn't notice was a Kino. But yeah, I used to call them the most consistent label in the game because when I first started doing my physical media report, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. Nobody was putting hardly anything out.
Yep.
And every single week I had something to talk about because they were putting something out. And that's when I really started to get into them and discover them.
Yeah.
So,
A lot coming out of Kino.
yeah, for sure. And the quality, like their 4Ks are top notch. I
They've
know they got
stepped it up.
some heat. I know they got some heat early on because they weren't doing Dolby Vision, and I think a couple of their releases didn't do HDR, but every single one I've seen lately has had HDR and Dolby Vision
Well,
on the
even then,
4Ks.
the HDR is not necessarily up to the label.
Yeah,
If you sign a transfer from somebody and it's got to be approved by the director, they may not like the color timing that HDR changes a film. And I think that what they've done with the Dollars trilogy, because one, at least one, if not two, or maybe even all three of those don't have HDR, they've proven that they can still be worth the quality uptick. It's just a matter of what are they allowed to do, and if they can do it, they will. If not, I mean, kind of got to deal with it.
yeah. I don't think Good, the Bad, the Ugly did. Um,
For sure, that one did.
I can't remember what Fistful of Dollars or For a Few Dollars More had. That was almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so that's your number 3. What's your fourth?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm making you do this off the top of your head. I know it's
No,
tough.
the hard part is I have too many answers, and I'm gonna cheat for my fifth
You
answer.
can do
So,
10 if you want. That's fine.
uh, well, my fifth answer will be a really funny cheat, so we'll do that. My fourth, I gotta throw it to Mondo Macabro. They are a label
Ooh.
that does not get enough love ever. Hardly anybody talks about them, and I think
I've
that
never
they
watched one release from them. I
wow.
have one that somebody sent me, but that's
Which one
it.
do you got?
I honestly don't remember if it was close by. I could hold on. Let
It's
me see if I
probably,
can
like Lady
if I
Terminator or Alucarda.
if I can actually. I think it might be close to me. Oh,
I love to put you on the spot now.
okay. I got it. I could reach it. The Inheritors
Oh,
is
nice.
the one that I got.
Nice.
So would you recommend this?
It's not I wouldn't put it in their top 20 releases, but it's not a bad
Okay.
movie.
It is definitely the top 20 in my collection because that's the only one I got. So,
So, if you'll notice on the top of that Blu-ray, they've got their logo, and it probably has their little, like, catchphrase that says, "The wild world of cinema," or something like that. "The wild side of world cinema?"
the wild side of world cinema is on the back.
I got it on the second try. So that is what all encompasses this entire label, and it is 100% accurate. So they have put out everything from Terminator ripoffs to nunsploitation to Bollywood horror films to just really like sleazy stalker films to just pure jollos. And the all encompassing thing about them is that they are off the wall bonkers types films that make you go, somehow this feels like a Mondo Macabro film. And you don't know what it is because they're not at all connected in any way other than they're curated by two people.
Yeah.
And Pete Toombs and Jared Honor have curated this collection to be almost 100% hits. They do some really incredible restoration work. They get some beautiful work done on their special features. Uh, they put out a small number of films each year, although they've stepped that up. It used to be like literally like 5 a year, and in the last couple of years, they've just kind of exploded a little bit.
Yeah, I don't feel like I see every now and then because I usually cover everything week to week. I'll see them pop up, but it doesn't feel like it's that often. What's
Yeah,
their output like?
they do probably 3 or 4 drops a year, where they do about 3 titles each time, two
Okay.
to 3 titles each time. And that seems to be on the way up. The hard part is that Thanksgiving or not Thanksgiving, sorry, Halloween last year. They have an annual Halloween sale every single year, and they had a pre-order for a Bollywood horror box set, Dr. Caligari on 4K, the '80s Dr. Caligari, and then another film, and they had production issues like crazy. You were pre-ordering the week of Halloween. They were supposed to be arriving at the end of January, I think. I just got mine this last week. So
Yeah, I think I seen you
going
post it.
going at almost 5 weeks, that's a lot. Or sorry, 5 months. That's a long time. And so they've had to delay what they're going to be announcing next. If they didn't, they would have already announced already, probably. So we'll probably have 2 or 3 big announcements this year from them where they've got bundles, and we'll probably get 9 more releases this year. It's not prolific or anything like that, but when you average it out, it's usually about 12 a year.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a label that I'm aware of, but I just haven't really dove it into yet
Yeah.
at all. So yeah, cool, man. That's your number 4. What's your number 5?
My number 5, like I said, I'm going to cheat. I am going to list the OCN partner labels as my fifth favorite label.
Okay.
I get a healthy number of partner labels from Vinegar Syndrome pretty much every month. Being a subscriber and everything is already 50% off of the MSRP, there's no incentive to wait for a sale, other than what I can freely spend at that moment. There's no incentive to hold on to it.
I'll tell you
Uh,
what, man. Well, I don't even have. I think I have it over here. No, you can keep on going. I got to find it.
I love probably 12 of their partner labels like crazy. I love Utopia. I love Fun
They
City
they really
Editions.
got me with this one. They really they really got me. I wanted that Bret Hart one too, but damn it, I didn't. I wasn't quick enough on it. I stalled and I had to think about it, and then it was gone. So I was like, when I saw that golden, I was like, that's going quick. I'm like, I'm getting
Yeah.
this immediately. Immediately.
Yeah, that was a fast seller. I love TerraVision used to be a partner. I love TerraVision. Yeah, Fun City Editions used to be a partner. Love them still. Utopia, I am a big fan of AGFA and everything they do to support underground film across the entire US theatrically, but also what they do restoration wise and with something weird. Um, yeah, Canadian International Pictures is a godsend for Canadian cinema right now. Culture Shock Releasing has put out so many different random films that I have never heard of, and the moment I put it in, I'm just flabbergasted that I love it so much.
Yeah.
Deaf Crocodile, amazing. Altered Innocence has done so much for very important queer cinema over the last 2 years that I'm blown away that they're still able to put so many out. Dark Star Pictures, they put out a lot of great stuff. Decanalog has had some amazing movies. Factory 25 has come out and just been wild with some of the documentaries and stuff they've done. Umbrella is now a partner label, which I've
Yeah.
loved
Umbrella.
Umbrella for years. Yellow Veil, that's one that not enough people talk about. Yellow Veil does great work. They do a lot of like modern neo-noir type films, and they're all really high quality.
Now, are all the partner labels numbered? Because I noticed on the ETR Media one, it's ETR 13 at the bottom. Are they all
Every,
numbered?
every single partner label is numbered.
Are Vinegar Syndromes noticed? Because I think I noticed the numbers on those for the first time the other day.
Every single one.
Are all yours in numbered order?
Yep.
That's cool. That's really cool. I always
Eh,
admire that so much. I know I'm not going to do it myself, but it's like it would the thought of it sounds awesome.
it's pretty to look at, but it really stinks when you're like, man, I really want to watch Body Melt. What number was it? That's
Yeah.
the hardest thing. It's not in
Yeah.
alphabetical order. I got to go search for the word Body Melt.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit like the partner label and Vinegar Syndrome? How does that relationship work? Are they just doing the distribution for them? Because they don't, they can't distribute it themselves, or they need some help to kind of, I guess, promote their stuff. Because I think a lot of people they look on Vinegar Syndrome's website and they just look at everything as it's Vinegar Syndrome. Like I heard several people say, I got this golden era from Vinegar Syndrome. Can you explain how that relationship works a little bit? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that. I mean, including myself, really.
Yeah, and this has actually been one of the most frustrating things for me because I really started my channel to be sort of educational. I've always had that sort of tone, and I wanted to try to just make sure I was passing the right information to people. And when you see people say, "Hey, Vinegar Syndrome is putting out Golden Era," Vinegar Syndrome had literally nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
So these are all individual labels ran by individuals that own this label themselves. They go through the process of getting the rights. They are making the special features themselves. They are producing everything that's going on the disc. They hire the artist. Usually, sometimes OCN has input or somebody on the roster that, hey, if you don't have anybody, we can help out. But the only thing that OCN really handles is the logistical side of the actual manufacturing of the disc and then sending it out. So basically, there's a contract in place where the partner label is allowed to sell it on the Vinegar Syndrome website. They have this whole partnership set up where they will let OCN know what they have coming. OCN will make a plan basically for when things are going to come out. The labels work on that. They get it done in time, and then you'll have a month like in 2-3 days or whatever. We're about to have 16 partner label releases in 1 month. So for that month, 16 different labels
Is
on
that what's
top
coming
of
this Saturday, April?
16 partner labels
Man,
plus
I'm
Vinegar Syndrome.
excited. I don't get excited for a lot of the announcements anymore, but I do for Vinegar Syndrome. I do.
Yeah, so there are 16 partner labels announcing something, and they all have a contract in place that say when you sell these on our site, this is how much you'll make for every single one that sells. And the people that are partners, they are understanding of the fact that they are probably making less than they would if they sold that one copy on their own, but they're probably going to sell exponentially more just by being on the Vinegar Syndrome website. So it's equally beneficial for both parties.
Yeah.
So it's basically just a large corporation at this point. Just
Now,
a
does any
moving.
do any other boutique labels that you know of do something like this?
Oh yeah, quite a few. Kino Lorber has multiple partner labels. They've got
Okay.
Milestone Pictures, they have Cohen Media, they have Code Red, they have Scorpion Films.
Yeah.
Those all utilize the Kino Lorber manufacturing stable, and they make slightly less for each one that they sell because Kino handles that for them. Um,
And they're on
A-
their website as well.
yes, Arrow Video technically has some. They used to sell, I think they still sell Third Window Films titles on their website in the UK, and it was the exact same way. Um, that's the bulk of what's coming to me at the moment. Radiance in the UK that just started, they've now got some of the Vinegar Syndrome partners as their
Yeah.
partners in the UK.
I just got a few of their titles. I'm looking forward to checking them out.
Radiance is maybe up and comer contender for like best label all around. Their
Yeah.
quality has been astonishing.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I got some stuff lined up where we'll get into that here in a second. So that's your 5. Do you want to throw in a 6 since
Uh
you cheated?
since I cheated, I mean, I still got love for Criterion. The biggest thing I guess I'll shout out is 88 Films, continuing to be able to put out solid releases for literally like $20 for a limited release is the champion in my book.
Oh, I need to get that damn. Well, hold on. I don't think this was them. Never mind. I was thinking of Ghost Watch. I think that was 101 Films,
Yes,
wasn't it?
that was 101 Films, and
101 Films.
that's another one. It's
That
a
was an
massive
incredible
release,
set.
and it's
20
20
bucks.
bucks.
Yeah. I was like, why did I not
Incredible,
get this? Should have got it.
incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Criterion. They're still doing cool stuff. They're still doing
I
cool
was
stuff,
very
but it
down on them for a few years, and not just because they were late to 4K. I feel like they were making some poor choices with titles they were putting out, and then on top of that, and I still believe this, they have slipped in quality quite a bit. I think that they're producing less special features, and when they do produce the special
it
features,
does feel like that.
they're not quite as good as they used to be. Not every title even has a commentary anymore, and that's what they were known for. I'm also really tired of the packaging that doesn't actually have like attention to detail. There's been a couple where the booklet was too tall to fit in the case. Like, what are you doing? Why do we have to bend it to get it to fit in the case?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you a completionist when it comes to Criterion too, or have you fallen off of that?
Hell no. I never have been, thankfully. I've got a couple hundred, but not. I will never have
Okay.
every spine.
Okay. Yeah, I just got Inland Empire, and I noticed they had some special features on there, and they had one with Laura Dern. I was
Yeah,
surprised they got her to do a special feature. That's pretty cool. So I'm excited to check that one out. Well, I
yeah.
was excited. Then I saw it was 3 hours, and I was like, 3 hours with David Lynch does not sound like a great time to me. Somebody described it as a less coherent version of Lost Highway,
Which was
and
already
and
on
I
the
was already
incoherent
lost
side.
as hell on David Lynch's Lost Highway. So I was like, I'm gonna be destroyed by this movie
Yep.
when I finally get around to watching it. All right, so let's get into what's the next superstar label in your eyes? What's the next label that's poised to break out and just be
Uh,
a massive success?
I mean, I did just mention it, but I think the answer there is Radiance. Fran Simeone starting Radiance because he left Arrow Video, took all of the years of knowledge that he gained at Arrow, brought it to a label that was more set on curating titles, not because people are going to buy them, but because they are better films. And when you lead with that mindset and people find you because of your knack, I guess, at curating the best possible titles, you are going to get fans that will be there for life, literally. He is producing titles that are like film school in a box, and those are the things that are most exciting to me. So when I see them put out something like this Franco Nero box set that's coming out in May or June or
Oh,
whatever,
they got a Franco Nero box set coming.
yes, sir, and it looks ridiculously good. When they've got that combined with like Welcome to
So
the
they got
Dollhouse.
Big Time Gambling Boss. But I mean, these are just the domestic release, and A
Yep.
Woman Kills. These are movies that I had never heard of before.
And
So I
they
mean,
are
it's
doing bigger titles, like Welcome to the Dollhouse. This is a huge title for them. It's a Todd
that
Solondz film.
was. Did that even have a Blu-ray? Because I found that on DVD, I think, at a Goodwill like a year or so ago, and I was interested in
Uh,
checking it out, so I picked it up.
that's a good question. I don't think it did in the US.
Now,
If it
do they go the extra mile with the special features and stuff? Are there plenty of
They
special
did
features
have
on
one in the
these?
US. It had a studio Blu-ray from 2018.
Okay, okay.
Yes, they go above and beyond. So they are partnering with some really great people. So if you recognize names,
And they
they've
got
got,
numbers on the spine too.
of
Damn
course they
it.
do. Kat Ellinger, who's been involved with literally hundreds of releases that you've probably watched and loved. She is heavily involved with the special features. Tom Mess, who is one of the eminent scholars behind Asian cinema, is heavily involved with there. You'll see his name all over that Big Time Gambling Boss release. Um, there are multiple people that are all over these releases to make sure that it's the highest possible quality. He is making these with collectors in mind. I mean, there's no slipcovers, but that's because this little green strip is an OBI strip that you used to find on like vinyl and stuff. You can take it off and throw it away if you want. It means nothing to the package. Everything there is printed on another place in the package. It is just so they can keep the certification logos and everything that they have to have on there. If you want to be the completionist and hold on to it, you can put it on the inside. That way it's out of the way, and the artwork itself is the piece of art. Yeah, Fran is amazing at what he's doing and has made pretty much perfect choices so far.
Do you think that that's a if you think it's going to take obviously if a new label kind of hits it big and takes over, there's got to be another one to kind of fall a little bit. Do you think that that's a not I don't want to say replacement, but for Criterion or Arrow Video or those type of labels?
I
Because
think
packaging wise, they're very similar.
I
Just
think it is a competitor to Criterion, and I think it is a damn near replacement for Arrow at its high point, and perhaps primarily Arrow Academy, which Arrow Academy does not exist at all
yeah, I
anymore.
remember I remember that. I have a
And
few releases from them.
it appears that Fran was probably the mind behind most of the Arrow Academy releases. So now that
Yeah.
he's gone, this is going to be what replaces that, which is basically the art house side of things, but it's art house with a side of mainstream appeal. There's enough in these films for everybody. I mean, he put out a film called The Working Class Goes to Heaven, and when you're putting out a protest film that talks about the class divide, you're doing it in an economic climate where people are literally having to make choices between feeding their kids and putting gas in the car right now. So
Yeah.
if you're able to consume media and buy these, that sort of thing is personal for a lot of people right now. So yeah, it's appealing to the masses, I think.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on? You didn't discuss them in your top five. What are your thoughts on Arrow Video right now?
It's a good question. Arrow is somebody that I have been pretty heavily involved with over the years. I still have hundreds of their releases. I love what they've done. I think they still have some very high highs, even right now with what they're putting out over the last year and a half. Um, I do think that they have very much dipped in quality. Uh, honestly, it's a lot of it might just be because of Fran leaving. Either he saw the writing on the walls that they were going to be making these choices, or he just left and took all of the quality with him. It's an odd situation because they
When you say
still
quality, what exactly do you mean by quality? You mean just like the transfer quality, or just the packaging, or just the type of releases they're putting out, or
it's mostly the choices they're making with what they're putting out. I'm a big fan of release everything and release everything in the highest possible quality. If something can
yeah,
have a 4K, it should have a 4K. Uh, I'm not going to stand in the way of that at all. However, if that takes the place of other films getting any release, I would much rather have films that are not getting a high def release to get a high def release rather than, we're supposedly about to get Mallrats on 4K. I'm a
Mallrats, yeah,
I'm a diehard Kevin Smith fan. Love
yeah.
everything he's ever done. I don't need Mallrats on 4K before I get some of these other underseen 90s and 80s films that I would love on
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Come on.
Yeah. I was excited for that just because I missed out on the Blu-ray, so now I get to get it with the slipcover.
Yep.
I am disappointed that it feels like they've kind of been slacking on like the hard box stuff recently. Like they just everything. I know they did that Lucas Moodysson collection, which was really
Yep.
nice, and they're still doing the UK releases. But I don't love having to import stuff just because it's a little bit more. I'd rather see it at Best Buy or be able to buy it on Amazon if I
Right.
want to. But I have gotten more into like Grindhouse Video and Diabolic and trying to go through them a little bit more to because I pre-ordered that Robin Hood Prince of Thieves 4K in October and didn't get it till mid-December, and I ordered that straight from Arrow. So I was like, I don't like this. I like it when it's domestic and I can pre-order it from Amazon and I get it right at my doorstep the day of.
Well,
Um,
even that's been faltering a lot lately, though, too.
yeah, it
There's
has.
a whole lot of titles where it'll say it's estimated to be delivered on release day, and then the week before, suddenly it's 3 weeks later that it's
I
estimating.
I had tons of problems with Amazon last year. This year so far, fingers crossed, I've gotten everything on release day. That's just this year though. Last year they were losing my order left and right and
Yep.
everything else. So Amazon's definitely hit and miss.
I
Um,
will say I think hands down Grindhouse Video is the place to go nowadays. A lot of people are anti Grindhouse because Mike is he doesn't handle when people are dicks to him very well. He gets to be a dick in response very
yeah.
quickly, which I'm a nice person, so I don't have to worry about that. But he literally discounts every single pre-order. So if you are pre-ordering from him, it is $4 to $5 cheaper than everywhere, including what it'll be on Amazon.
Okay, so I've been pre-ordering from Diabolic. Would you recommend Grindhouse over Diabolic?
If you're purely going on price, yes. Orbit, Grindhouse, and Diabolic are the pretty much the only three places I go to that's not direct from labels, and I use them all for very different reasons. Um, Grindhouse has been my go-to for pre-orders because the moment they get them in stock, they'll raise that price to what it is everywhere else. But if you pre-order it, it is
Okay.
absolutely cheaper there.
Well, that's a good tip to know. I will
Yeah,
check out Grindhouse next time because I still got that Martin that's supposed to be coming in on 4K, but I haven't got it yet. I haven't
just
got it
got
yet.
mine in.
But I got it from Diabolic. Okay. Um, so let's go into this could kind of go into the top five, but maybe you have another answer for this. Which label do you think has their stuff together the best at this point? Just firing on all cylinders.
I mean, it's got to be Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
I think that they have the logistics set up to make people happiest. They have the highest quality products. This year and last year, they have shown that they have the titles that will make people excited, and somehow that's even getting better. And the fact that they're peppering in more mainstream titles has pissed some people off. But like you and I talked about just a little while ago, it's important for multiple reasons. And now they just kind of get to flex and say, I mean, hey, if we could have been doing this all along, we would have. But now that we can afford to, because all you guys are supporting us, yeah, we're going to put out a kick-ass release of
Why do you
Sidekicks.
why do you think people get upset about that? A couple
Uh,
mainstream titles here and there.
Sadly, it's probably the hipster mindset. It's people want something that other people aren't aware of, and when it becomes cool, it's suddenly less cool to them.
Yeah.
And I really thought as a society we were going to be past that. I mean, Comic-Con has exploded because the nerdy subculture was the popular thing. We should be
'Cause I'm
okay
telling you right now, Vinegar Syndrome announced a Nightmare on Elm Street 4K box set
in a heartbeat.
with some awesome ass artwork. It's like, come on, you can't be upset by that.
I agree.
I feel like people will give them a pass for that if they
Well,
finally
yeah,
announce that.
the other thing is that doesn't have any other good releases, so people would be stoked on it.
Yeah. But I even like a movie like The Exorcist, like I know it's coming from Warner Brothers this year, but I would love nothing more than Vinegar Syndrome do that with some
Same.
awesome like artwork. Like that would be incredible. At this point, I want Vinegar Syndrome to do everything because they're just on top of their game when it comes to the packaging and the artwork, and I don't think anybody's beating them right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
hard to argue with. The only reason I put them over Second Sight is because they have the output to kind of
Yeah.
to build up their structure here. If Second Sight was releasing more than one every 6 weeks, I would put Second Sight easily above that.
Yes, I mean, Second Sight feels like they're going to have some good output this year because they got Martin coming, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hitchers on the horizon. Wasn't there
Yep.
another big one they just announced
Picnic at
recently?
Hanging Rock. That was the big one.
Okay. Yeah, that was another one. And then they got some, usually some Blu-ray releases and stuff to go along with it. Yeah, I was pretty late to the party with them. It was The Guest on 4K that really got me into them because I love that movie.
The
Um,
rumor is we're also getting a couple of the French Extremity films from them this year. I believe Inside and High
High Tension.
Tension.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
High Tension. Yeah. I love High Tension. That was a good movie.
I love
Uh,
all the French Extreme films. It's a good time.
Sounds like a great time. I did love High Tension. I don't remember what happens at the end, but I know a lot of people aren't high on what happens at the end. I know
The
there's
ending
some
is
big twist.
pretty
It's
rough.
been like 5 or 6 years since I've seen it, but I remember enjoying it. I don't know. Which label do you think will fail first?
It's another really good question. I will throw out a caveat on this, and this is only because I try to not be super negative on any of these releases, but I'm very very truthful about them. So I will say, nobody has matched the 4K quality from Blue Underground. I think that they have the best 4Ks in the game across the board. They look the
Oh,
best.
I agree. I agree.
They are the best textured films, some of the highest quality. However, if they don't release any new films that they've never released before, what
Mhm.
else are they going to have left?
Yeah. I mean, God Told Me To was an incredible 4K release, but that was like one of two things they did last year.
Yep.
That
And
and
I
Toolbox
love
Murders,
that
I think.
movie, sure, but I think we got three or four from them last year. We've got the two Jess Franco titles this year, and we're rumored to be getting one or two more. But I mean, they haven't released any new films to Blue Underground in, not kidding, probably 7 or 8 years.
What do you think's going on there? They're just struggling or maybe not trying or
I don't think they're struggling at all. I think they just are focusing on quality. It's kind of like Synapse. They both are very much focused on basically creating a perfect product. They've just focused in different areas. Synapse has done kind of newer things and less focused on the
yeah, they
4K
did
game.
Satan's Little Helper last year. That was a newer one to them, right?
Yeah. Yep, that was brand new. Creature from Black Lake.
Yeah.
That was another one. They just had one come out. The star of Thriller is in this film from 2018 that they're releasing.
Synapse is quality. Like they're the only label that I'll be watching a Blu-ray and I'm like, is this 4K? Y'all
Yeah.
sure this wasn't 4K?
And that's
Massacre at
all.
Central High and like The Living Dead in Manchester Morgue like looked excellent.
Massacre at
Excellent.
Central High is a mind-blowing release.
Yeah, like that. Both of those were like, damn, this is like 4K. Like,
Yep.
why? Yeah. Um. So you think that Blue Underground's going to be the first to bite
Possibly.
it?
And then Bill Lustig, who's the head of Blue Underground, the director of Maniac and Maniac Cop 2 and whatever, he did an interview with Serial at Midnight, another YouTuber, sometime last year, I think it was. And Heath asked him, how long do you think this home video thing is going to last? And he said, well, in 5 years, none of these labels will be around. No Severin, nothing like that. And I laughed like crazy because
Well,
Severin
yeah,
and
getting
Vinegar.
into that. Do you think that's true?
No, not at all. No, just plain no. That's why I laughed, because when these other companies are willing to put time and energy into these other releases that actually get people to buy them, and Blue Underground isn't signing any new films, yeah,
Yeah.
you might be gone within 5 years, but why would everyone
Do
else
you
that's
think Vinegar Syndrome has any plans to be gone in 5 years with the
oh
way they're
god, no.
ramping up? Yeah.
It feels like they plan to own everybody in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, getting into that a little bit, I'll address the kind of elephant in the room, but Scream Factory. When do you think their time's up? How do you first off, what's your thoughts on Scream Factory? Were you an early adopter of Scream Factory?
Yes, I certainly was. I bought from them not knowing they were boutique because they put out all of the mainstream horror films.
I found their stuff at Walmart.
Yep.
Like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Misery were both $10 there
Yep.
for with the slipcovers. Those
Yeah.
are the good old days
Yeah,
when
I think
Walmart
I
would
got
have like
Mad Max on clearance there with the slipcover at like $6.
yeah, yeah.
I love Scream Factory. I think that they have a catalog that is hard to argue with. They've put out literally some of the best movies of all time, and now they are trying to live off of that reputation, and it's not working like it used to.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in the amount of re-releases. I'm very disappointed in only focusing on 4K step ups on some of these releases. That being
That
said,
does seem like that's all they're doing
I
at this
love
point.
4K. I think it's the best way to go, and I'm a fan of it. However, if it's going to replace other films getting released, I'd rather not have it. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. I'm also really anti the Shout Factory site exclusives. That is maybe the biggest thing that bothers me. We are getting basically bare bones releases of fairly no name films, limited
Yeah.
to 1,500 copies, going on a website that they're selling for $30 plus $6 shipping. What? I mean, nobody is going to your site to buy one Roger Corman title for $36.
Yes. So those titles aren't selling well.
Well, the sad thing is they are, because people know that they'll want them, but
Yeah.
they're hoping that they'll go on sale eventually. But then you get, you're allowing people to buy 3 at a time. So people are buying 3, sitting on them for 6 months, and then they'll sell out, and then they'll go on eBay and sell them for $70.
Yeah. It's crazy. How do you feel about the whole slipcover editions? Does that stuff bother you when the labels are so inconsistent with like what they're doing reversible cover art on, what they're doing slipcovers on? It feels like to me that Screen Factory is the most inconsistent when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I
Because
think Scream Factory is the most difficult to describe to somebody that's new to it, for sure. The fact that you can say all collector's editions get slipcovers, but then there are some IFC Midnights that get slipcovers, but not all IFC Midnights, and other Scream Factory ones don't get them. I get that that's
just when I
frustrating.
feel like I have them pinned down and I'm like, I know what okay, I get it now. Then they just like throw me a curveball
Yep.
like out of nowhere.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me all that much. I
Like
just want.
what was the for cat people got reversible cover art.
Yep.
And I'm like, what are you all doing?
Well, and one side of this, I don't know if this is a good time to say it, but there's a lot of people that don't understand that we're only able to buy what the studio says a label can sell us. So there are still things that studios are controlling that comes on these releases. I've had producers on my channel that do special features that tell me, uh, I mean, I'm not affiliated, so I don't care if I say it here. MGM is supposedly like the worst of the worst. They will censor full on portions of audio commentaries or things that are printed on the back of these releases just because they don't like the way that it's worded.
Really?
Um, I've got, and speaking of these, we just found out from Fran at Radiance that MGM is not allowing them to print the word, I think, Hitchcock or Tarantino on the back of an upcoming release. Uh, that's how deep they get onto this.
Really?
Also, somebody told me that a commentary for one of the Child's Play releases, I think it was, like 60% of it got censored. So if you listen to it, it's just dead air because they didn't have enough time to record another commentary. They made the
And
full
that was
commentary.
the older one, I'm assuming.
The studio went
Okay.
and listened to it and said, no, we don't want you talking about this. So we're just going to demand that you blank it out. And by the time they did, it's just mostly gone. So when it comes to things like art, they control if the original art is allowed to be used. They control if there's allowed to be newly commissioned art. They control what type of font they use on some of these because they overall are the ones that are the rights holders. They get to choose
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So you think that's what Scream Factory's more or less dealing with there? And
On 1 or 2, sure. I also think they've gotten very lazy.
yeah. It just like a title like Freaky or Ouija, it just
Yep.
seems stupid to not put slipcovers on though, because I just feel like they would sell so much better. If they
Potentially,
did.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
I think like the Ouija would have sold like 1,000 more copies with a slipcover on it. Because who's
Yeah.
buying Ouija anyway?
True.
But if you put a slipcover on there, then the collectors, I know a lot of collectors that didn't buy it, but if you put a slipcover on it, they'd buy it for sure.
Well, I also know a lot of people that haven't bought it, but because there's no slip, they'll buy it in 8 months when it's on sale for
When it's on sale.
$17.
Yeah. And then you got stuff like Dr. Giggles, which just came out, and it's like, why couldn't you make that like a collector's edition? Put a slipcover on it.
Well, the
You know?
hard part is back in the day, collector's edition meant something to Scream Factory. It meant it was going to get a lot of special features, usually. It meant that it was going to be a great restoration. Now, either they're relying on that and they're understanding that they're not allowed to do a bunch of special features for these, or they couldn't, or whatever. So they're only giving it this little tiny treatment, not very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I think what's the one with Kim Basinger that's getting ready to come out? I forget the title of that one. It's coming out in like a month or so. I can't remember the damn name of it. But that should have been like a collector's edition or something, I would say. But I think the quality with Scream Factory is there. I think their 4K releases are generally pretty good.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like maybe the best I'll see all month. Like Dawn of the Dead, I thought looked amazing on 4K.
I
Army
don't
of
have that one yet.
Darkness. Army of Darkness looked amazing.
Yeah, and the other thing is a lot of people think that these labels are always doing the restorations when they're putting out 4Ks, but a lot of times they're not. They're only getting the restoration that's provided to them by the studio. So Scream Factory has done quite a few in-house. Army of Darkness is one that they did. But if you look back at something like They Live, it's a decent 4K. It looks better than the Studio Canal 4K because Scream Factory uses better encoding, but Studio Canal did the actual restoration.
Yeah.
It's even worse when you look at some of these lesser known titles. Like they just put out Sorry Wrong Number, the classic, I think it's a 50s film. I think they did, or they're about to,
Is
something
that the
like
one
that.
with was it Burt Lancaster?
It's
That
it's
one?
quite an old one, so I want to make sure I'm not yeah, Sorry Wrong Number. Burt Lancaster and Barbara Stanwyck.
Bless the Child was the name of the Kim Basinger movie. I
There
just
you
thought
go.
of it.
So they're not doing a restoration on that film, even though it says like 2K restoration or whatever.
Okay.
Paramount did that, and they just licensed the restoration from Paramount. So a lot of people that say, yeah, Scream Factory's been doing really great with these restorations. Some of these companies, they do no restorations. Imprint, as far as I'm aware, I don't think Imprint has ever done a single restoration, and people will talk crap about Imprint's restorations. Dude, that's the studios that you got to beef with at that
Yeah.
point. You got to understand
And
who's
I know
doing this.
Kino does a lot of through Paramounts. I'm
Yep.
pretty sure Paramount does a lot of their 4Ks as well.
I don't think Paramount has let anybody do any restorations of their films yet.
Yeah. Because,
So
but Kino also does a lot of MGM stuff. Also,
for sure.
Okay. I was gonna shift gears and get back into you as a collector a little bit. What movie or movies really got you into the idea of starting your collection? What was the movie that was like, I need to start collecting now. I need every edition of this.
I mean, in this current generation, it probably was that Reanimator title I threw out a while ago.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly when I got that, but that was
Was
when.
Reanimator like a lifelong love for you?
No,
That one
but
you've
the
been
moment
watching
I had
forever?
it in my hand, then it was because I realized, oh, these are not just I'm going to pop in a Blu-ray. These are like works of art that come with everything I could want in a package together. Seeing what a limited release from one of these boutiques could be just completely changed my mind from just film fan to I could like breathe in a film for not just the 90 minutes that it's on, but a 90-minute commentary after that, read the book that came with it, watch the interviews that came with it, stare at the packaging, and then revisit it again in 4 months when I'm just nostalgic for it already because it's that good.
Yeah.
Uh, the I mean, there's so many that I've had multiple releases for, and if I'm going to go down that path, it would probably be some Carpenter film, probably like The Thing. All of us have probably 4 copies of The Thing on some
Yeah.
variant version. It's they're things of legend. You hear about the Carpenter and Russell commentaries and go, well, what the hell is that? Now I got to have all of them because this one was so entertaining. Or there's just something about it that completely draws you in. So the physical side of it was probably Reanimator, but yeah, the films, it's probably all about Carpenter for me.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Now I want to get into a little bit of what type of collector you are. I mean, I feel like I've got you pinned down for the most part, but we'll get into some nitty gritty stuff. Uh, are you a day one buyer, or do you wait for the sale a lot on some stuff, or does it just depend on the label?
It really depends on the label. Especially this year, I'm looking possibly to move later this year, so it's slowed a lot of things down for me. But there are certain things that I just don't want to disappear. I'm a real big fan of supporting what I feel like needs support, and a lot of people don't like that because they feel like it's wasting money or whatever. But I don't know. There's something about helping a smaller company rather than pre-ordering a Scream Factory title that's just satisfying in a way that helps you know that you're helping somebody.
People really get into, the whole telling you how you should or should not spend your
Oh
money, don't
yeah.
they?
Oh yeah.
That's garbage. Why did you get that? I didn't make you buy it. I
Yep.
bought it myself.
That's why earlier this year on my channel I put out a video on cultural gatekeeping and why we don't need to do that
Oh,
in
I need to go
film.
back and check that out. Now, have you done a room tour on your
I
channel
did.
yet?
Yeah, last it was last August,
I need
and
to check out this complete Vinegar Syndrome collection.
it is very different now, but yeah, it was pretty crazy then. It was very clean. It's grown in leaps and bounds since then, but it's a sight to behold.
Nice. Do you buy a lot of mainstream releases? Or are you mostly boutique at this point?
I am probably 90% boutique to 10% studio. I like I said, I love Steelbooks. I always have. I've got down behind me is probably, oh, you can kind of see it. I've got a little bit of Steelbooks displayed on the wall. I love displaying the art. I've got uh, 9 displayed here. I've got the Universal monsters displayed over one of my doors. I've got a bunch of MCU ones displayed on the wall. So a lot of the films that I know I'm gonna love or I've seen and I love, I will buy the 4K steelbook that comes out. But
Yeah.
if it's just a fairly standard title, I will absolutely wait till Black Friday or something.
Yeah, if it's like something that just came out in the
Yeah.
theaters or something like that. And I'm trying to get more in the habit of doing that kind of stuff for sure. Like when Rocky came out on 4K, do you buy stuff like that or
I tend to if it's one that I know I love. I'm not a big I probably really love like 5 Stallone films, and Rocky's not one of them, so I held out on that one.
oh no, you don't love Rocky? We're ending this now.
It's never
I'm
been in
sorry.
my bloodstream for some reason.
I get it. I get it. What about First Blood?
That is one of the ones I love. I've
All
got
right,
that,
we can be
I've got
friends
the
then.
whole
That's his
Rambo
best film.
collection. Yep.
That's his best film. Do you still buy? I know you mentioned Marvel. Do you still keep up with Marvel? Do you buy like the new Marvel releases and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
I'm still current on all the Steelbooks from the MCU. I haven't watched all the TV shows, but I definitely on the
That's too
physical
hard to
side.
keep up with.
God, yeah. I've got kids, man. I can't do that.
Yeah, for sure. Which well, we already got into that. Are you steelbook or slipcover?
It
What's your jam?
it kind of depends.
I mean, you're a Vinegar Syndrome guy, so you got to kind of be
Yeah, that's what I'm
slipcover.
getting at. Slip covers are more difficult to damage, so that's more what I'm leaning towards. But at the same time, I really take care of my stuff, so I don't think there's a lot of opportunity to damage my stuff. Um, I don't know. If I could display all my steelbooks, I might. So I really love them, but I mean, they take up a lot of space. They take up a lot of weight. Probably slipcover first. But if we're talking mainstream titles, I don't care about a 4K slipcover for the Fablemans from Spielberg or something.
Okay. Okay. Um, do you think that Vinegar Syndrome will ever get into doing steelbooks?
Never.
That's not going to be their thing.
Nope. Never.
Do you know how they got into doing the type of packet? Because it feels like with a Vinegar Syndrome slipcover, that thing's not going to damage. Do you know
Yeah.
the origin of that packaging?
The only
'Cause
thing
it
I
just
know,
feels so different than everybody else.
is that that's what they were searching for, was a unique feel, that it was something
Or
that was
like a different
actually going to
type of
be new.
material, or
Yeah, they have a very specific supplier that does just simply thicker packaging,
okay.
and it's not proprietary, and anybody can go out there and use it. Just other companies are not willing to spend that extra, who knows how much per release, to put that as part of their package. And like Scream Factory, I have all their slipcovers. They're all garbage. They're
They
all
are.
paper thin. Like, as much as I love them, they are pure trash. And if they had done
Yeah.
Vinegar Syndrome style, they would have survived.
Yeah. I agree. Kino Lorber's kind of the same way, but there's something about Kino Lorber I just love the look of their slipcovers and
A
the
lot of
Kino and
people
the
are,
KL at the top. It's just I
yeah,
don't know.
a
I know
lot of people
Scream
are
Factory has Scream Factory on it, but
people are anti-Kino because they think the spines are boring. I love that because they
I
all
love
look
it too.
so great on the shelf.
Yeah, I've got them like, and even like if they have slipcovers or they don't have slipcovers, they still seem to look good together.
It's consistent, yeah,
So whereas Scream Factories, they don't look good together. If some have
not at all.
slips and some don't. I don't know. It's weird. I know it's all a mental thing. Do you do a lot of? I imagine you do. You got a Vinegar Syndrome subscription. You do a lot of blind buying, right?
I am one of those crazy people that people again question why you buy things. I get scoffed at all the time because I'm probably more than 95% of my stuff is blind buys.
Okay.
Easily 95%. Like I said, I grew up in a house that we only saw mainstream things. So when Robin Hood Prince of Thieves got announced, that was my favorite movie for 3 years when I was a kid.
Same
So
here. Yeah.
I loved that movie and I bought it day one, but I I didn't even see Ticks till it came out on 4K. Never saw it in my life, and Vinegar Syndrome remedied that. And if I didn't blind buy, when was I ever going to see Ticks? It's not like Netflix is promoting it to me. It might have been on Tubi, but I'm not seeking that out. I try to watch discs.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So when this stuff gets announced, do you try to watch it on any streaming service or anything before you purchase it, or you just go straight in?
I
Because to me, it's like I don't have time to do that. I was like,
Not
I
at all.
barely have time to watch the stuff that I'm getting in,
Yeah,
much less watch it on the streaming service before I
I
pick
want
it
my
up.
first experience to be with the disc because it's going to be the
Yeah,
highest
same here.
quality.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
a lot of people don't realize that your first time with that movie can be soiled by a bad Tubi stream. It can be
Yeah,
soiled by juddering internet. It can be, if I watch your crappy YouTube trailer and it's in low quality, I go, man, this looks like garbage. Why do I want to buy
yeah,
this from Vinegar Syndrome? That can change your entire opinion of a film before you give it an opportunity. And I literally have a sign in this room that says the disconnected museum and library. And that's why I try to treat it like this. Not that I'm trying to own everything, but as much as I possibly can, because these are all important to people. That people put most of these films, people put their life into this.
yeah.
It deserves a little bit of respect. It's art on a level that I can't possibly produce, and I want to give it the time of day that they are putting it out there for us to give it.
Yeah, it feels like we're kind of on the same wavelength because I've told people before that my dream is to have that archive,
Yeah.
of films. And does it bother you to think that I don't know how much of your collection is unwatched? You
A
got a
lot.
lot of movies, I imagine a lot. You only got so much time in the day.
Yep.
Does it bother you to think that you will not watch some of those movies? Because you probably won't watch some of
Yeah.
them. Um,
Absolutely.
Even if you
Absolutely.
retire tomorrow and you have every day to watch movies, you could probably catch up. But there's still a bunch of stuff still rolling in every single week.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it bothers me for sure. But also I try to do a lot for myself in terms of education. And if somebody brings up something about Burt Lancaster, I want to be able to go pull Sorry Wrong Number off the shelf and go, hey, either I've never seen this or it's been years since I've seen it. Not only can I go watch the movie, but I got a commentary that I can hear what people say about Burt Lancaster.
yeah,
And just to have that ready when that's not really anywhere else easily, readily available for me. And this is perfect. And not to say that with any ounce of snobbery or anything like that, but that does actually happen. I do go back to some of these all the time because people start talking about an auteur or Tim Talks Talkies brings up a 90s movie challenge, and I want to go see what are all my favorite 90s films, and I'll go rewatch some of them. Hey,
Yeah.
maybe 7 of them aren't on streaming. If I don't have a copy of it, it doesn't exist, basically.
Yeah, that is true. And we have these movies with the intention of watching for sure, but for me, it is really about I just want the option to
Yep.
watch it. I don't want to ever be in a position where I want to watch this movie and I have to be dependent on a streaming service. So if I see it and it's at a good price, or in some cases, maybe it's not at a good price, and I'm remotely interested in it, I'm going to pick it up.
Yep.
Because I may check it out at some point. And I always buy stuff with the intention of checking it out, but it's not always going to happen.
That's true. And if I had all the money in the world available to me, every single one of these titles would be pre-ordered, no matter how good or bad.
Yeah. All right. Do you do a lot of thrifting? Like,
Uh,
is that something maybe you used to do back in the day, not so much anymore?
A little bit. Not so much now, primarily because I've got 2 young kids, and both my kids are special needs, and I work from home, and now I've got this YouTube venture that's been taking a lot more time than people think it takes. So
It really does.
not only being a full-time
How can you not
federal
watch 20 movies a week?
exactly. I wish. So yeah, being a full-time federal employee and then doing the channel plus having 2 kids with special needs, I don't even get to leave the house that much, let alone
Yeah.
I don't even remember the last time I went into a Best Buy.
Yeah. I used to do tons of thrifting, but I find it's definitely slowing down lately.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of good stuff anymore, at least in my area.
Yeah. Yeah, the same here.
It used to be
Even
a lot more fruitful back in the day.
even like resale shops that used to sometimes find some random gem. It's all the good stuff picked over, and that's the other hard part is I've got most titles that are going to be in there, so it's tough to weed through.
Yeah. When you first got into collecting, I know this kind of goes back to like, boutique and mainstream. Were you boutique from the beginning, or were you more mainstream and then you kind of folded into the boutique labels?
Easily more mainstream, because at first especially it was certainly more uh kind of more quantity over quality in a sense, because it was just what can I afford.
Yeah.
And looking at how I was spending my money, there's certainly even some of the cheaper things that I regret buying now, but it's easy to dive into when you can get a decent 4K for $7 at Walmart or whatever back in 2018. Nowadays it's
They used to have a
very different.
Steelbook bin at Best Buy for $6 for a Steelbook. I
Yep.
got some amazing Steelbooks there back in the day.
Oh yeah. um yeah, it was certainly more mainstream in the beginning, and then beyond that, once you really dive in, and once I became a little more like seasoned, I guess, as a person, you start to challenge yourself. And a lot of the more challenging films aren't just available in mainstream titles. So if you look up something like a Citizen Kane, there might be some really old school Blu-ray that was available, but even that gets hard to find. So then you go, well, what's next? And nowadays the answer is the Criterion 4K.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there some wish list movies that you would like to see come to 4K or Blu-ray that haven't been put out yet? Some stuff that just gnaws on you every day. It's like, when the hell is somebody going to put this out?
Far too many. I would love some of the more underground 90s horror films to get released. Way too many to name, but I just did another podcast appearance recently where I'm gonna bring up the exact same thing, just because if I speak it more into the ether, maybe it has more of a reality. How do we not have a good box set of Cube? Um,
Yeah.
Something with the original and the 2 sequels. I
I've
know
not
that
seen the Cube movies.
I know that the 2 sequels, at least part 2, is pretty much everybody hates it, but we don't have a readily available Blu-ray. I don't think in the US we even had a Blu-ray. We might have a long time ago, but I know Canada had one. But yeah, that should be on
I
4K.
know everybody wants Gleaming the Cube on Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Um, yeah, stuff like that would be great. I'm a big fan of erotic thrillers, and we have so many from the late 90s that just do not exist because they were only on TV, or they were an HBO film that now nobody has access to, or something crazy like that. I would love to get the bulk of those. And that's where, the imprint box sets of the neo-noir After Dark cinemas, those are great. A lot of those are erotic thrillers, and they absolutely killed it.
Do you buy a lot of the imprint stuff? Do you get all those?
Uh, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but up until I think November of 2022, I'm complete on imprints.
Because they just got started recently, right? Like in the past couple of years, and they're
May of
already up in the
2020.
hundreds.
No, they are at
200.
220-ish. Yeah.
They release like what, 6 every month?
It's
6 or
somewhere
7?
between 4 and 6, yeah.
Yeah, they're killing it. That's another label I have not I haven't dove into yet.
I have been very fortunate that Imprint is actually getting me some review copies now because I've rung their bell so many times.
There you go. I got to get on that train, I guess. Let's see. I'm going to let you out of here soon. We've been going for an hour and 33 minutes. Jeez
Take your time.
Louise. Jeez
My
Louise.
longest stream on my channel is 5 hours. I got you.
Good. Awesome. What's your thoughts on the overall state of physical media today? I know we've already kind of talked about it, but where are we at right now? Are we in a pretty good spot moving forward? We're not done in 5 years, right?
No, that's the thing. I don't think we're ever done. I think it will become more niche as time goes on, for sure. I think we are just past the golden age. I think that the end of 2021 into 2022 was probably the best and highest quality of physical media that we're probably going to see, from the most amount of labels, from the most amount of people buying them. And there were so many things that just hit perfectly with everybody stuck at home due to COVID, with the economy in a better place then before all the inflation hit, with people getting random checks from the government because of the COVID acts. That was a big deal. And people were, the old Halloween box set from Scream Factory at one point sold for $800 on eBay. $800, and that was because people were getting those checks in and just willy-nilly spending it as much as they could. I think coming out of that, it felt a lot more promising for some of these labels, and now they're seeing, well, maybe there's less people that can throw around money like they were even a year ago. And unfortunately, that's going to lead to some of these titles that were going to come out with a huge amount of features either not coming out, or things delayed, or just less titles. I think that we're still in a really good spot. There's still lots of competition, plenty to buy.
It is interesting you bring that up, because I have felt like almost a very extreme shift in just the way that people, just like their purchasing habits.
Oh, yeah.
Like I noticed everybody a couple of years ago, everybody was buying everything.
Yep.
And here recently, it's been more about just buy the stuff you love. You don't need that. We don't need that. This is crap. Why are they releasing that? Who wants that? Why did you want to get that?
Exactly.
It does feel like everybody's kind of strangling each other over these releases and the price points and that kind of stuff, because money is getting tighter for a lot of people out there, whereas it wasn't a few years ago. Everybody was just spending like mad.
It's true. Yeah. And I think ever since probably September-ish of 2022, everybody's just felt the slow screech to a halt on their buying, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So getting into that, what's the future of physical media? Where do you see it going? Do you ever see a time where it comes back into prominence? Because I've always operated under the notion that the streaming services are, I don't want to say they're going to go away, but it feels like a bubble that at some point's going to burst. And people are going to realize that having 15 streaming services is more expensive than just buying the movies that they love physically. But you still have all that exclusive content, though, which is going to continue to drive most of those services.
Yeah, immediate future. I do think streaming is here for a little while longer at the very least, and it will probably always be here. I do see a possible future with them being a little more desperate for things to draw viewers in, And that's why we'll see things like recently they announced there was a new Ryan Johnson commentary that went up for Glass Onion, the Knives Out sequel that came out. I think that dropped on Netflix in December. And then just like 4 or 5 weeks ago, they just randomly decided to load up an audio commentary with Ryan Johnson. And if that sort of thing makes people go, oh, well, if they're going to start doing that for some of these originals, maybe I'll hold on to Netflix, even though they just raised their prices and now it's all the way up to 22 or whatever it is.
Oh God, I need to
Yeah.
cancel them. I barely watch Netflix anymore. It's almost all HBO Max.
Yep.
At this
HBO
point.
Max and Hulu for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see that coming. I see this getting more and more niche. The big question I always get asked is, when do you think we're going to get into 8K physical media? And I don't. It'll likely
It's
never
not
happen.
practical at this point.
The only time I see that happening is on like a commercial level, perhaps. Maybe they do things for theaters just to make it a little clearer when it makes sense in that size of a room. But for home video, no, it's already cost prohibitive to do what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, it's like it already looks so damn good. I know we've been saying that for years. People got DVD. They're like, oh, this looks great. Why would we need an upgrade for that?
Right.
But I just feel like we really are at the peak of like what our eyes can actually perceive. And I mean, we're not getting any younger here. It's like a few more. I'm already wearing glasses. In a few more years, I'm not going to be able to see this shit anyway.
I think the people that are asking about 8K are probably using an Xbox One X as their 4K player and using a TCL Roku 4K TV. And unfortunately, again, not to sound snobby or anything, but you're not going to get the highest quality from literally the lowest price items that are the entry point items for playing this material.
I mean, I just upgraded my TV last year and I was watching 4K, and yeah, it was mind blowing the change.
If you go to a good 4K TV, primarily an OLED, and you get, especially if you get it calibrated professionally, or you find the time to do it yourself in a way that matters, there is a 4K calibrating disc that you can actually buy to calibrate the colors, and you go through that whole process. It will be a mind-blowing process what you can actually see out of your TV.
Yeah. I need to do that. I know some people brought that up. I was like, so there's actually a guy that'll come to my house and calibrate my TV.
Yep, they put a little spectrometer on it, and they'll be there for half an hour or so. They'll load it up with all the settings you need, and they'll be on their way.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that because I've tinkered with it myself, and I think it looks good. But if it can look better, I definitely want it to look better for sure.
Exactly.
So do you think that we'll ever arrive at a point, because books have kind of come back in to prominence, vinyl has come back in. Do you see physical media as the same thing, or do you think that they're kind of two different things?
I could see it happening again if they're trying to draw people back in, because in all reality, physical media itself is not, it's not exorbitantly expensive to produce a disc necessarily. It's all of the extra work that goes into it. So if somebody like, I mean, we just kind of saw it a few years ago. If Netflix can put out the season 2 of Stranger Things on 4K and this special packaging at Target, that will get people into the stores. And if nationwide, maybe Best Buy says, oh, we got rid of all of our physical media, which they seem to be doing at a lot of their stores, and in 2027 they go, well, nobody's coming in here for dishwashers anymore, maybe we can lure them into here if we sell the season revival of Prison Break on 4K that just came out in 2026. Who knows? And maybe they do a special packaging that might be enough to get people to come in. Sure. And it's weird that Target is getting vinyl exclusive variants in 2023. But if that's the case, I mean, yeah, it's quite possible that we're going to see some crazy limited record store day type releases for some of these films at just the most random of retailers.
Yeah. Just when I think about today in the youth, I guess, are they going to care about this stuff enough in 20 years to even want the physical release of anything? Because the way we watch entertainment and check out content, it's a lot of YouTube stuff that kids are watching today.
Yep.
They're not watching like TV and movies as much anymore, I feel like. And I don't feel like the average kid today cares about movies and TV like we did back in the day. So are
For
they going to
sure.
be as into this stuff in 20? That's the thing that I think is going to kill this faster than anything. It's just the interest isn't going to be there in the future
To a
in the
point, I
art form.
definitely agree. Yeah. The one thing I would say back to that is this generation alpha that they are calling it, which is what is below this Gen Z. They are they're especially two different factors. One of them being they are conscious to what the world is feeling, and one of the things that is a very easy thing that you can argue against this hobby, there is a whole lot of plastic waste in this room. I can't defend that whatsoever. There's a whole
Yeah.
lot of materialism in this room. I get that. So if we can find the happy medium between that and their other factor, which is I feel like a lot of kids that are a part of this generation alpha that aren't even really kids, they're starting to be adolescents and young adults, are very deliberate in their actions. And one of the things that I love about these discs and these films is that it is a deliberate action. When I come downstairs and choose a disc that takes 20 minutes to pick what movie I'm watching, and
Yeah.
then go upstairs, open it up, put it in the player, turn off the lights, sit down, it is maybe one of the most deliberate things that I've done all week because it's almost like ritualistic. And the kids that are growing up, they're making deliberate choices like that. And so I can see them being into the process of it and understanding, hey, there's a lot to learn from this. I think that they may come around for sure.
Yeah. That is definitely an optimistic viewpoint, and I hope you're right for sure.
Me
I
too.
just I just get depressed when, my kids seem to be more interested in watching people play video games on YouTube than watching a movie or playing Fortnite and buying digital stuff, which I'm preaching all the time like an old man. I know that's what it feels like probably.
Yep.
Like, why do I need to give you $20 for new Fortnite skins and maps and stuff that you're not going to be able to take with you through life? It's like I
Exactly.
have all this stuff for when I was a kid. It's like you all will have nothing but these digital items.
That you
You're
don't
not
own. They can
and
take
you're
away from
and
you whenever.
you're not going to have those when you're older because they'll shut down Fortnite or whatever. Makes me sad, makes me depressed.
I agree.
Okay. Let's get into you as a content creator in your channel. When did you start this whole adventure? 2 years ago. You said it was your 2 year anniversary. But what kind of drew you into, making content on YouTube?
Before that, I had, gosh, somewhere around 2018, I think it was.
And you
I
got a
got
great channel name, by the way.
thank you.
Disconnected is a killer name.
I had actually locked down that name about 2018, and I had primarily been using the Instagram, just to, hey, you know what a lot of collectors do. Here's weekly pickups. Here's a shelfie to share. Here's a couple titles I wish would come to Blu-ray, sort of thing. I had like no followers. And then my kids started becoming of age, and we were getting them tested and everything going out. And when we found out they were special needs, and I was going to be super busy with them, all that went away just because it was not important at that time.
Yeah.
Uh, Fortunately for me, I guess, and unfortunately for the entire world, COVID happened and we were stuck at home. We were not able to go to as many therapies for our kids. We were stuck handling everything that we could possibly do sitting from home and over Zoom, basically. So I found myself with a lot more time. Suddenly, I'm not driving to 8 doctor's appointments every week, and that handles an hour worth of driving for each trip. So I got a lot of free time. So I started the Instagram back up again, and I mean, not that I'm better or anything like that, but one of the things that I saw is that there is one other major account other than mine that shares all of the announcements, and I am not a big fan of the way they do things over there. I feel like
I
they
probably know who
leak.
you're talking about.
Yeah. They post all the leaks. They post a lot of rumors. They start a lot of drama, and I don't like that side of things because it's overall harmful to these companies. And it sounds very like capitalistic and like I'm worshiping these labels, but in all reality, I like these as an art form. So I said, I'm not going to be bigger or better or anything like that. Just, hey, maybe some people will follow for some announcements. So I just started posting announcements and doing them the way that I saw to be better. So I was doing
Right,
that.
so let me reiterate to everybody that's watching, go follow Ron at The Disconnected for a drama-free place for sharing love for physical media.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was doing the announcements, and then I don't remember what happened, but one of the other content creators on YouTube put out a video that I hated. And I hate that this is the reason that I started, but it's absolutely the truth, and
Are
I
you
will stick
willing to
by it.
drop the content creator's name? It wasn't me, was it?
No, it was not you. No, it was not you. Uh, they put out a video that was recommending some arrow titles. And this is one of the only things I remember about it now, is that they were telling people that they were region locked when they were region free. So that some of these people that were in the US could have bought them and enjoyed them if they knew that they were region free. But beyond that, I listened to what he was saying and went and found the review on blu-ray.com written by somebody else that he was basically just reading word for word and had thousands of subscribers. Did not understand how somebody that could be giving bad information that wasn't his own was just amassing tons of subscribers. So I said, I am a big fan of the right information. I'm a big fan of educating people in a way that is fun, that they can actually learn from and that they care about. And maybe I could be a voice in here that people will, for some reason, gravitate towards. And so that's where I started with YouTube. I started with a couple small reviews, and then the idea of the guide video for these labels came about. And like my Scream Factory guide video that I did has, I think it's one of my highest viewed videos. It's not very many. It's got like 1,500, 1,600 views or something.
Now, how many of those do you have? Because
Probably
that
like
sounds like it takes a
7 or
lot of work
8.
to do,
Yeah.
especially for Scream Factory.
Yeah.
Jeez. Do you
Yeah.
go through everything? I'll need to check it out. It's up on your channel?
With Scream Factory, it would have been like 400 titles, so I didn't go through every single one. But we're
Okay.
talking like I went
Do like
through
a
the
volume 1, volume 2 kind of thing?
not well, it's a little more educational than that. I'm talking like the different types of releases they do,
Okay.
why it's a collector's edition, what type of special features you can expect, the names of the people associated with the company, where you can find them on social media, how they
Well,
do
if you
their
did Scream
announcements.
Factory, it's probably already invalid because they already changed all the rules.
Yep, unfortunately. But yeah, I've done that for MVD Rewind. I've done that for Scream Factory. I've done that for Mondo Macabro. I've done that for a handful of others, and then I started doing them for like Hamilton Book. When Hamilton Books was huge, and people had not heard of the fact that they were releasing out of print titles for like $5, and it wasn't a scam, and they were all brand new. People didn't know why you could do that, so I said the easiest way is just to put this all in one video. So now, anytime somebody says, "What is Hamilton Books?" I can just link a video, and they can go find everything out about it. And one thing I try to do is I'll get a package in from the company that I'm doing and unbox it as part of that video so they can see how it's shipped, how it's packed, what they can trust, all that sort of thing. I'll explain free shipping thresholds, all of that. That way it's one place to go get all of the information.
Awesome. Awesome.
And then I realized there was too many labels, and I started putting out a series called Boutique Labels I Collect and So Should You. And it has 8 or 9 different volumes in that series, and each video is like 10 or 12 labels, just all of the random boutiques. And people were like, I thought there was like 15. Vinegar Syndrome alone has more than 15 on their website.
Yeah. It is interesting because it's like as I got further into this whole boutique thing, it's like, oh, there's 5, there's 10,
Yep.
15, 20. I'm like, damn, how many are there? Because they just keep popping up
Yep.
everywhere. But I do find it fascinating. I feel like I'm still not at the beginning. I'm definitely more towards the middle portion of my journey into this stuff, but I do want to get more deep into it for sure. I feel like getting into Vinegar Syndrome is definitely gonna help me do that.
Yeah. When I finally put down, I basically wrote a handwritten list of all of the boutiques that I had at least one release from. I think the final number was literally like 90 something. It is
What?
crazy how many are out there.
It's an insane time for physical media when you look at it from that perspective. When you're just
Yeah,
looking at it from the stuff that you can buy in stores, you feel like it's dying.
for sure.
But when you look into all these labels, it feels like it's never been more alive.
And honestly, I mean, that it sucks that we lost that part of it, because going to a video store on a Friday night was a huge part of the
Yeah,
community. The hard part is the community has moved online, and that's where I'm super proud of the channel that I've put together, because my community is somehow super positive. I've not had to, delete a ton of comments. I've not had to help resolve any conflicts. I've not had to worry about all kinds of hate, and I've got a Patreon that has a Discord attached to it, and it's this group of really tight knit people that are closer friends to me than anybody that I have in real life.
definitely, man. Yeah, you're doing excellent work over there, and I've been watching your stuff past couple months, and you definitely do have a great community and a great turnout. Like when you do a live, it feels like you got a popping live in there.
Yeah,
Excited
every
to be
single
there.
Thursday, we've got usually somewhere between 50 and 80 people.
So again, I'll tell everybody, go subscribe to Disconnected. I think you're incredibly underrated. You got 2,000, and that's great, but you need
Yeah,
10,000. Need 10,000. Hopefully this episode will get you there.
maybe
Everybody,
someday.
everybody go subscribe to the Disconnected. All right, I want to talk about your love for the cult genre films. Did that start with the boutique labels themselves, or was this something that you had loved since you were, younger? Or that just kind of developed through these labels?
I was big. My parents were big into horror, but it was the very mainstream type of horror. So, uh, I I mean, even the crappy films like Leprechauns, not a great movie, but I watched it 40 times when I was younger because we had the
Yeah,
VHS.
I did too.
We were huge into
Great Jennifer
Halloween.
Aniston movie.
Yeah, hell yeah. Huge into Halloween, huge into like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and most of us nowadays, that doesn't feel like a cult film. It just feels like a fairly mainstream horror film. When
Yeah,
you start talking cult, you start talking about like these older exploitation films, and so that deeper side of things, I mean, I'm barely scratching the surface, just like you said earlier. I'm educating myself right alongside with a lot of the people on this journey with me, and boutiques is the natural way that it's gotten there, but because I'm trying to seek out more information, or seeking out what inspired Tarantino, or seeking out why Scorsese has still been relevant over the last 5,000 years that he's been making films, it's important to look at what led to Scorsese and what led to John Carpenter being what he was by the end of it. And when you look at that, you start finding films like Terminal Island that Vinegar Syndrome put out on 4K. It looks amazing, way better than it ever should have.
yeah,
You start discovering that sort of thing, and blaxploitation with Foxy, Cleopatra, and the older films that are just amazing. It's hard to pay attention to these releases without paying attention to that cult exploitation side, because most of these boutiques are releasing those.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I love the discovery aspect of physical media.
Same.
That's why I can't understand I don't blind buy at all, mindset.
If I
Because to
never
me,
blind bought,
that's the
I wouldn't buy
fun.
anything.
Yeah, that's what like fuels my love for this is the blind buying and the discovery and learning about, film and movies through the lens of physical media. That's the
I
most
have
important part to
seen
me.
such a small sliver of films that if I didn't blind buy, I would never watch movies that I haven't seen
Yeah.
before.
If I just collected the movies I remembered loving when I was a kid, I would have like 3 or 400 movies and that'd be it.
Yeah,
And then I would just be done.
I love Lucio Fulci now. If I had only bought stuff I'd seen, I'd own one film from him. That's it. I never would have seen freaking
I'm
Zombie.
Yeah, that movie is amazing. That as soon as I watched, I was like, "This is my favorite zombie movie now."
I saw City of the Living Dead when I was younger, and that's the only Fulci film that I ever saw
Yeah,
until I got into this boutique side. And now, obviously, Fulci is everywhere, but it's not. It's one of those things that it seems so elitist to say, "Why are you blind buying? You should just know all of this already." That's not
yeah,
how people's lives work.
yeah. It's true. Maybe how their lives work, but it's not how our lives
Let's be
work.
nice. I don't know about you. My parents didn't let me watch things that were even like rated PG-13 until I was close to 13.
For some reason, it's like they weren't lenient on anything else, but I was going to the video store getting going to the horror section when I was like 9 or 10. I remember.
I got
Is when I
in
really got into it.
I got in early on a few. Like they
It's like
showed me
we get out of
Halloween.
church and we go to the video store and they let me rent a bunch of horror movies
Been there before, yeah.
for the weekend.
Yeah, I saw Halloween at 8, and then a couple others are like I saw The Omen very young as well, but,
Yeah.
for the most part, pretty much anything with I wanna say gratuitous nudity, but a lot of the horror that it's like one scene, and they're like, "Ooh, that's terrible."
Yeah.
I don't know, there was a lot that they just wouldn't show at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you I already asked you this question. See, I got my questions all out of order. Well, Ron, look, I think we're pretty much done. I've had you for about 2 hours talking movies and physical media. Is there anything else you would like to bring up? You have a question for me.
Hmm. Uh, what have you enjoyed most on my channel? I'd love to hear that because people don't ever give me that feedback.
I love the live stream content. Like I'm all about it. So like when you put out a 2 or 3 hour conversational based like podcast type live stream, I will listen to every single second of it. I just love the conversations about movies and physical media, and you definitely do great work in that department for sure. But I tell everybody, it's like I love everybody in this community. I support everybody in this community, but if you put out a 2 or 3 minute video, I'm more than likely not going to watch it because I'm all about the long form stuff. Even a
Yep.
10-minute video. I'll watch everybody's live streams to completion. I'll listen to them like podcasts. But
Yep.
if it's 10 or 15 minutes, I rarely ever watch the video.
It's tough.
Yeah, I've loved your just your podcast. I've listened to a few episodes of that, the Culture Shock podcast, you and the other group of guys, which I'm not familiar with any of them. But you all just have a good back and forth and banter with each other. And your award ceremony was incredible. Awesome stuff. And yeah, I just like hearing people talk about, I like getting everybody's perspective on things,
Same.
on physical media and what's going on, because everybody has such a unique perspective on everything and everybody's so different. I appreciate it all, even if I feel differently.
Right.
But yeah, definitely a great channel over there at the Disconnected. And I thank you so much for joining me here tonight for 2 hours. This might be one of the longest episodes of World's Biggest Collectors I've ever done. At
I'm
least in
used to
this
that.
form. I've done longer live ones.
Right.
I think Celeste was about 2 hours.
Yeah. It
Um,
was a good
but yeah,
episode. I
thank
love
you so
Celeste.
much for being on, and let everybody know where to follow you and subscribe to you one more time before we get out of here. Let some people know what you got coming up. I know you probably got a lot of things in the works.
Sure. Yeah. First off, it has been an honor to be on here with you. It's something I wanted to do for a long time, but I'm just thrilled that you would have me on here. This is let's see, it's the end of March, so I've got some other interviews coming up that will probably be interesting to a lot of people. I have a professional film critic that I uh, really dove deep on film criticism and why it's important and why people should support film criticism in 2023 still. I've got some interviews with some filmmakers coming up that I'm very excited for. I've got some other big deal videos with some labels coming up that I can't even talk about yet because we are planning some things for the channel with them. We are planning our second Shelf Shock Rewind Awards for next February already, working on some things with that. But yeah, other than that, every single Thursday live show on the Disconnected. You can find me on YouTube under the Disconnected. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I even post on Reddit. Pretty much anywhere that's a social media, you can find the Disconnected or Disconnected. It depends on how long they allow the names to be, unfortunately.
It can be a little tough to say sometimes.
Yep.
But it is a cool name that I do
Yeah.
like. But yeah, everybody, I definitely encourage you, go subscribe to Ryan. You're definitely doing work that I think that, quite frankly, nobody else is doing right now. On YouTube, you really dive deep into this stuff. And, there's a lot of channels that do interviews and stuff like that, but you really get into like the nook and and crannies of everything. So if you guys really want to go deep into physical media and the boutique labels, I highly recommend going to subscribe to Ryan at the Disconnected. But that was World's Biggest Collectors, episode 52. Thank y'all so much for joining. Like, comment, subscribe. Leave us some feedback down below. We always appreciate that. If you got anything to comment on what we talked about here today, let us know. And we'll see
I'll
you
be in
guys
the
later.
comments too.
Oh, yeah. I'll see you guys later.